Ladies and gents, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. Today, we're going over something that a lot of people requested. Before we get into it, I want to draw your attention to the full S5 build video. If you didn't watch that before this one, go watch that. It's gonna go over everything as far as like the actual modifications we did to the car, all the upgrades, every single thing as far as the install. So this is gonna be a full cost breakdown. I've actually gone to the extent of printing out a page with all the pricing on it. And just before we get into it, I wanna mention that I am listing the prices in tiers. So that's gonna go from just the parts and you install them all yourself, just the parts and some labor involved like what I did. And then if you get everything installed by a professional, the expected labor cost as far as everything. So without further ado, let's get into the video. The S5, ladies and gents, the B8.5, such an awesome platform, so modifiable, and obviously has a lot of interest because that video has over 500,000 views and I uploaded it just over a month ago. So first off, appreciate the interest in that. If you guys are wanting to see more modifications, more builds, I am in the 2019 S4 that we are currently building right now. We're already building this car so much faster than the S5. So if you guys are interested in Audi builds and modifications, which if you clicked on this video, I'm sure you are, hit subscribe, stick around, would really appreciate that. But let's get into the video. So let's go kind of chronologically as far as the S5. The first thing I did was put wheels on the car literally within 2 weeks of ownership. So I had the Niche M131s. It's a 19 by 8.5 wheel, 35 offset. The one unique thing specifically about the Niche wheels that I had, they do not make the same wheel in the 5x112 bolt pattern anymore, but they have similar ones, and I can tell you the pricing based on an average. Everything here is basically like $300 to $350 a wheel. For comparison's sake, we'll call it $325 times 4 plus tax, whatever. It ends up being $1,378 for the wheels, the exact wheels I got. So with wheels, I got new tires as well. Initially, I got the Michelin Pilot Sport AS3 Pluses, but I later upgraded to Firestone Firehawk Indy 500s. This is a tire that I really like and that I'm also getting again for this car. They're a really good high performance summer tire, but they're also pretty cost effective at about $240-ish a piece. With the current rebate though, you can get a set of 4 for $932. The next upgrade slash install I had was 3M ceramic tint around the entire vehicle. I paid about $320 for this back in 2018. With current prices, it could range anywhere from $300 to $600 to be honest with you. Every tint shop and installer is going to be different as far as like the quotes you get. After that, I got the Stage 1 Eurodyne ECU and TCU tune. So the thing with the 3.0T is basically every tune company you're going to go with has similar prices across the board. So Eurodyne separates the engine control unit tune and the transmission control unit tune. So it has the DSG and the ECU separate. I believe the ECU tune is $600 and the TCU tune is $600. And that also includes the flashing module you need to tune the car. So I think you can do it yourself now. Most of these companies are transitioning to the handheld DIY flashing tune with like credits on their site. I know a bunch of tuning companies have similar pricing on this. So $1,200, 034, Eurodyne, APR, Integrated Engineering, just to name a few, they're all gonna have similar pricing for the 3.0T. So let's just call that $1,200. With the configuration I had on a 93 octane tune, I believe it was 441 crank horsepower, and that's an upgrade from stock at 333. So significant upgrade just with the tune. So a tune is one of the most important modifications you can do and one of the most cost effective as far as like money to power. I have a whole video on tunes, so that's not really the point of this video. Let's continue on with the mods. So we went straight to upgraded rotors. I think those rotors were $800 and I paid labor around $300. So that entire thing costs about $1,100. I got upgraded rotors and then high performance brake pads as well. So that appointment I did not do myself. I had a reputable company work on the labor for that. So I believe it was $1,100 total for the rotors and then the high performance brake pad upgrade. After that, we did the lowering springs and the spacers. So we did these both about a week apart, but we did the springs first to let them settle and then see what the fitment would be with the spacers. So the springs themselves cost $264. You can get them on ECS, Amazon. So many aftermarket performance websites have the H&R Sport springs, but product-wise, $264. Labor on this one is a lot. So just because of the time involved it takes to take off the springs, the tools, the spring compressor, literally everything involved with changing out the suspension, it's very time consuming. So the labor on these, I believe, was around $600. And again, if you do it yourself, if you're that crazy DIY person that can do a spring swap in your garage, then you're gonna save huge on this. I decided this one was gonna be better handled by the professionals, but I took it to the same person who did my rotors and brakes and tune and all that sort of stuff. In addition to the springs, about a week later, we did wheel spacers. We did ECS 20mm in the front and H&R 25mm in the rear. With these spacers on there, we needed upgraded lug lugs, so like longer lug bolts. With the wheel spacers, it brings it out further from the actual wheel hub itself. You need longer lug bolts to get in there. However, ECS makes it easy. They have it included in their packages with the wheel spacers. So in total, it's $372 for both the front and rear spacers, as well as the hardware you need to accommodate the spacers themselves. Next on the list, we have the AWE Touring exhaust. Right now on their website, it is slightly discounted, but if you factor tax and things like that, it's about $1,900, and that's just for the exhaust itself. If you want to pay somebody to put it in, it's going to be around $300 just based on the hours it takes. Fortunately, I have some buddies who wanted to just do it. I paid them in beer, and that worked out. But again, if you take it to a shop and they do the labor for you, expect to pay around $300 to $400 in labor for an exhaust install. Next is the AWE S-Flow carbon intake. So this one is slightly discounted on their website. I see it here as $624. This one is an easier install. I would expect a shop to charge around 60 bucks for labor. Intake on the 3.0T is a must-have upgrade, so highly recommend getting any sort of intake. The AWE S-Flow carbon intake is definitely on the higher end of like the price scale for those intakes, but it's carbon. You kind of get what you pay for. It's cool. If you pop the hood, it's like, whoa. So we'll add that to the tally. Next, we have some of the more fun aesthetic modifications like carbon fiber bits. I got my carbon fiber bits from a few different places. We'll start with the Carbon Imports diffuser on the rear end of this car. Right now, it's on their website for $750. If you take your diffuser to a shop and you say, please install this for me, it could take anywhere between an hour to 2 hours of labor. It actually ended up taking us a bit longer because we had some fitment issues. We had to grind down some spots on the diffuser to make it fit perfectly. So I would say about $200 in labor if you decide to go that route. Next is the rear spoiler. So the cool thing about the rear spoiler is Carbon Imports used our pictures for the promotion of that spoiler. That was the V1 carbon spoiler from Carbon Imports. Super cool spoiler. And again, it's on their website, so it's cool to promote. That one should require no labor. That one's a pretty easy DIY one. Like, that's one of the first modifications I ever did in the car world. 3M tape spoiler, so it's super easy to install. Then we have the carbon fiber DSG paddles. I was lucky, a subscriber actually sent me these paddles, which was super generous. His name's Jeremy. I still think about this dude all the time because he was just so nice. He just wasn't using them anymore. I think he got red ones for his S4, and he said, hey, I don't use these. Do you want them? I was like, yeah, I want those. So Jeremy, if you're still watching my videos, man, I appreciate you. These I was able to find online for $88. Next is the carbon fiber mirror cap. So I got these from German Car Accessories. They were $200. Install on these took a while. So I think it took 2 or 3 people 2 or 3 hours. So the labor on that one's gonna vary, but there is a lot that goes into the mirror cap install just because you have to get behind the actual mirror, you have to pop it off, you have to do some wiring stuff, and it's just kind of more labor intensive. So if you're gonna have a shop do this, I would estimate around 2 hours of labor, maybe $120 or so, again, depending on the labor rate of your shop. Next is the gloss black Quattro grill, which I also got from German Car Accessories. This was $369. So I actually had an RS grill on the S5 before, but I wanted the new one with the black rings and ultimately decided to go with this one. It was my favorite. So $370 for that one. And then if you were to get it installed at a shop, again, around 2 hours for labor. So another $120-ish. This next one is kind of a modification, kind of not, but the Adams graphene ceramic coating is something that was super important as far as like keeping the paint clean, keeping it protected. I recommend everybody ceramic coat their car like right away as soon as they get it. For us, luckily, Carson was able to help me out with the ceramic coating itself and do all the prep and all the polishing and all that sort of stuff. This is one, if you can do it yourself, I highly recommend you do because it can be really pricey if you take it to a professional installer. So the actual coating itself, the glass bottle with the liquid, is about $80 on Amazon, but you'll have to pay for a polisher, polish, prep pads, everything like that. It's one of those things where if you don't already have the materials, it can get pricey. But if you take it to a shop, expect to pay around $1,000 to maybe $1,500 for professional ceramic coating. That's going to conclude all the modifications for the S5. Again, I said I was going to do this in tiers. So let's go off the parts themselves first. Without any discounts or without any labor, total cost for the parts, $9,627. That'll bring us to our second tier, which is labor optional for some of the things. Now, I would consider this tier most applicable for the average person like me. So that number is going to be $10,527, which again, I'd say would be the most accurate for the average person. The total, if you were to get everything installed by a professional installer, $12,577. Again, these are estimates as far as labor goes, so your prices could vary slightly. I would say give it 5 to 10% variance either direction as far as the pricing, but I hope this gives you guys an idea of the S5 build and what to expect as far as wanting a similar setup to the old S5. Ultimately, yes, I get that's a 5-figure number and it's quite a lot. It's something that you can build over the years. So my car I had for 4 years, and I really did most of the modifications in that last year or so when I was recording and documenting and doing a lot for YouTube. I want to say thanks to you guys, because without people watching my videos, I could not make stuff like this happen and build these cars. I'm in such a fortunate position where I actually get paid to do YouTube, and we have sponsors and we have access to some discounts, and it's just amazing that I can build these cars, have so much fun, and then pass it on to you guys as far as like inspiration for builds and advice and installs and documenting the entire process of building certain platforms. So if this content is at all helpful to you guys, I recommend subscribing to the channel, sticking around. All these videos are free. And if you have any questions for me regarding the S5 build, this S4 build, the other S5 build that we're doing on the channel, please leave them in the comments below. I read every single comment I get and I try to reply to as many as possible. If you guys want the most up-to-date stuff, follow me on Instagram. It's S4_KevG. That will wrap up the video for the cost breakdown on the S5. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you guys so much for the support on that full build and the video that went along with it. Until next time, ladies and gents, we'll see ya.